Headlines sponsored by Credible. Great rates, none of the bull. Packers, Eagles in Sao Paulo. Second game of the year, day after Ravens Chiefs. NFC odds. San Fran at 1, Detroit at 2, Philly and Dallas tied up at 3, and then the Packers at the 5 spot. Brew? What do you think is the odds-on favorite to win the NFC?
First of all, get Dallas out of there.
Wow.
They shouldn't be there.
Yeah.
They've had a horrible offseason. They're giving their quarterback less to work with after his terrible performance in the playoff, and the vibes are bad, all right? So I am obviously going with the Philadelphia Eagles.
As the better bet between the two.
Between them
the
and
question
Green
on
Bay.
the screen, not the one wild team.
Yes, between them and
Totally
Green Bay.
different questions.
Green Bay or Philly?
Oh, yeah.
I have got Philly.
Okay.
First of all, Philly, I think now is in an easier division. All right, so, I mean, Green Bay, that division all of a sudden is tough. Obviously, Chicago should be better. Minnesota, I think, is going to be very competitive. All right, and then you got the Lions to deal with. So Philadelphia, I think, has a better chance of having a number 1 seed or a higher seed and not having to play the wild card route. And then I just love what they did this offseason. You've locked up your 2 top receivers. You got rid of your coordinators. You have 2 new coordinators. I think the vibes are very good right now. All right, you add Saquon Barkley. They were going to have a good running game anyway. Yeah. All right, now you add a back who is much better than what you had, and it was still good then. Saquon is going to be fantastic. He will have never had less attention ever on him, and I'm including Penn State.
That's true.
Ever on him than he has in Philadelphia, and that's also going to open things up for the rest of the offense. So Philadelphia and they had a good draft defensively, which was their weakness.
Theoretically, yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm with you, Brew. The draft, they took Mitchell.
You hear that nonsense little dig by Nick Wright? Theoretically. The Eagles had a great draft. They had a great offseason. They made all the necessary moves. They improved significantly. They got a great OC, a great DC, a great draft, and they had great free agency. Every aspect of the offseason, the Eagles did great. You can't say anything negative about them. You can't say anything negative. I understand if you don't want to be a super Eagles fan, you don't want to say they're going to win the Super Bowl and all that. I understand that. I get that. But you have to admit when a team does something well and when they do something and they are successful. That is what the Eagles did. They locked up their players. They're not going through the drama and the controversy of the Dallas Cowboys of, are we going to sign this guy? Are we not going to sign this guy? Well, we need a running back, but let's not draft the running back. They didn't do that. They actually improved. They're not running it back with the same OC or DC. They made concrete decisions and moves that will absolutely, positively improve their team. And they were already a pretty good team, obviously.
The corner from Toledo and Cooper DeJean, the guy from Iowa. So they upgraded the secondary. Their pass defense was so terrible last year. And to the point about the odds, it's baked into them. But yeah, the NFC North might be the best division in football. The NFC East, certainly one of the weaker, could be the weakest division. So just right there, Philly's got a much better shot at a round 1 home playoff game than Green Bay does. But then also, I always hear you talking about this existential funk. Right?
Yeah. Supernatural
funk, whatever the funk is that happened to Philly. And well, how are we going to define what it is? And so that was the last 6 weeks of last year. So we went back and looked. Week 1 of 2022 through week 12 of 2023.
Pre-funk is what this is?
Pre-funk.
Okay.
Exactly.
That's awesome.
That's a much bigger sample than whatever happened down the stretch in Philly last year, which was a disaster. It was bad.
And it's over. It's vanished.
But there is no evidence it's over.
No, but hold on a second, Nick.
It's gone.
Of course there's evidence. Jalen Hurts is healthy. They got a legitimate, competent OC. They got healthier on defense and got younger on defense. They got a better running back in Saquon Barkley. Like, what are you talking about? So there is all the evidence in the world to believe that that funk has improved and won't be there. Without a doubt. Even Troy Aikman talked about how difficult it is to call plays, to be an offensive play caller. The OC for the Philadelphia Eagles could not cut it. Kellen Moore is proven. I understand Kellen Moore isn't as sexy as a Shane Steichen or Ben Johnson, but all of a sudden now, Kellen Moore is not a good OC. Everyone thought that he was this great OC with Dallas and with the Cowboys, and now all of a sudden he's just not that good of an OC. He's not a good mind. All of a sudden. He was supposed to be the next big thing, and now he's just nothing. Is that what we're saying? Because that doesn't make any sense to me.
You're a sample size guy. Which is the bigger sample?
What?
Yes. They go to a Super Bowl. They go 26-5. They're top 5 in points, yards, rushing. They've upgraded their defense.
Yes, I get it.
A little
but
fumble down the stretch
I
last
worked
year.
with Wilds for 1,200 days.
You felt like
and it's
10 years.
Fine.
Sure.
And if the first 1,200 days, we never once got in a physical fight. But then each of the last 2 we did. Then we couldn't just be like, well, the sample size says you guys aren't likely to get in a fight the next day until
Sure
it.
you could.
No, you couldn't.
You guys had a little rough patch.
You guys, all right.
You had a
I
rough
can't
patch.
believe you think that is going to carry.
I got to say one more thing. But Nick Wright is just so wrong. Under this logic, Patrick Mahomes last season was statistically not a very good quarterback. And there's no reason to believe that that he's not going to be as bad of a quarterback. What's the reason? Are you going to say, well, hey, they got other wide receivers? Well, they lost Rashee Rice. Travis Kelce's even older. So what are we saying here? And if we want to say, no, they made some key acquisitions offensively. They got a new tight end. They got another wide receiver who's real fast. And Travis Kelce's still going to be great. And you got Andy Reid. Okay, let's say I accept that to be true. Then you have to say the same darn thing about the Philadelphia Eagles. Because the Eagles are also now healthier. And the Eagles also got better offensively. They literally got another elite weapon offensively. So they have improved. They upgraded at the offensive coordinating coaching position. Those things matter. So if we're going to say that Patrick Mahomes is not on a downward trajectory and that last season was just a down year because of concrete reasons, because of the offensive weapons, that's fine. I will accept that to be a true statement. And if you accept that to be a true statement, then you have to accept that there's all the reasons to believe in the world that the Eagles, especially the offense, will be better than they were last season. Not to mention, their defense was not very good. And it's very well known that when you have a better defense, it helps your offense. You get better field position. You get more possessions. There's other things that take factor. You get more time. Like, you get more rest sometimes when your defense is trash. Before you know it, you're back out in the field because they just gave up a 50-yard touchdown. Those things happen. It's all connected. So this idea that there's no reason to believe that the Eagles are going to be better makes no sense. And it's just Nick Wright hating for the sake of hating.
No, what I think
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, please.
When the Lions were great, the Lions went into Kansas City and won, and we're like, that's right, and Dan Campbell's got everybody fired up. The narrative was inside the building in Detroit, and for NFL fans across the globe, Detroit kept their momentum, beat the Packers, beat Aaron Rodgers, then went into Arrowhead and won. And next thing you know, they're headed this way, and Jared Goff's got a contract yesterday. That was all one continual linear line. The Eagles are doing the opposite. Why do you think all of a sudden it's like, whoop, whoop?
Of course.
Look, I wouldn't be
because
surprised.
Jason Kelce left?
I wouldn't be surprised if something happened and was there a
Big
fight? I don't
Dom. We
in
know
the
what it
locker
was.
room.
Big Dom.
You
They
got
couldn't overcome Big Dom.
You got 2 different offensive coordinators. I think if they thought it was Sirianni, and the players did back Sirianni, I was like, if they don't back him, get rid of him, especially with Belichick out
They
there.
did. They flirted. More fun.
Yeah, but they determined, you know what?
By that
They
same
haven't
logic,
lost-
the
he hasn't
Cowboys
lost
did a
locker
good
room.
thing by staying with Mike McCarthy, which I know you don't think is true. So, get rid of the Packers graphic I had, Hubs. Can we just talk about the Eagles over not just the existential funk, over the course of all of last season? There's whatever it was. Nonsense. The Eagles last year, their defense was absolutely brutal across the board for the whole year. And it wasn't just that they were bad at the end of the season. They were inexplicably the worst team in football.
Tin Man mode.
So, look, since December 1st, which of these teams So the Chargers, we know what happened. Trevor Lawrence suffered multiple debilitating injuries. The Chargers fired their coach because of it. The Panthers are in constant free fall.
We're just letting
the Commanders.
Okay. Nick Wright's going to drive me crazy. The Washington Commanders have been a terrible organization for decades. The Carolina Panthers have been a terrible organization for decades. The Chargers, they had some of their fun for a few years. They had a legit quarterback for a minute. But besides that, they haven't really done much of anything. They've certainly underperformed. And the Jaguars have been a terrible organization for decades. Let's compare that to the Eagles, who are top 3 playoff wins for the last 25 years, who have been to 2 Super Bowls in the last 7 years, okay? Who have been to more Super Bowls than many teams have playoff wins or playoff appearances in the last decade. And we want to act like that the Eagles are not going to be able to perform or turn things around. They literally won a Super Bowl and then had a new regime, new coaches, new quarterback, new everything, except for a couple few players, and they went to the Super Bowl and were a play away from winning it. So get out of here with this nonsense. This wasn't a fluke season for the Eagles in the last couple of years. The Eagles are consistently one of the top run organizations in the NFL. That's not up for debate. It is not up for debate. Just look at their record and their experience and their playoff record for the last 25 years, since like 2000. Okay? It is at the highest. It is up there with the Patriots and the Ravens and the Eagles. That's who. Many teams have not even won a Super Bowl. The Eagles have been to 2 Super Bowls, like I just said, in the last 7 years. The Eagles have been to 2 Super Bowls, while Dak Prescott only has 2 playoff wins. He has 2 playoff wins, and the Eagles have gone to 2 Super Bowls. Think about what I'm saying there. So it's just insane. Everything Nick is saying is just biased nonsense. It's just biased nonsense. It's not rooted in reality. You want to compare them to these other organizations who are terribly run, with terrible owners. Owners who are either getting in fights with fans or making, I don't even want to say what I was going to say because I don't want this video to get flagged, but just bad ownership, okay? Bad ownership all around. So it's just nonsense. Nonsense.
Letting the Trevor
What
thing
happened?
ride.
I'm sorry it happened.
I
I was waiting for somebody to say something. I got to be the bad guy.
What? I'm sorry. Did Jalen Hurts suffer multiple debilitating injuries? No. In fact, you asked him. He said he was fine. He played. Exactly. Trevor missed a game.
Okay, that's such nonsense because Nick Wright all last season said that he thinks that Jalen Hurts is injured, that his knee is messed up, and he predicted that Jalen Hurts was going to get knee surgery. And now that is not convenient to his point right now. Not to mention, Jalen Hurts dislocated his finger going into the playoffs, and A.J. Brown didn't even play in that game.
But you guys don't believe in the Jags.
No, we don't.
You don't believe in the Jags. You don't believe in the Commanders. You don't believe in any of those teams on that list. Why we're going to all of a sudden think Philly is going to rebound when they were at their absolute nadir?
What do you think of their roster?
I think it is a touch overrated.
A touch overrated. Oh, God, man. Well, I'm glad they had a whole conversation about Green Bay or Philly. I mean, I'm not even going to address that because that's not what this segment was about. But I already established why I think Nick is just dead wrong in being a hater. All the things that I would say will just be repeats of that. It's just the roster is a great roster. They now have a great balance between players in their prime, younger players who are up and coming, and of course now younger rookies who will be able to be integrated. We have a bona fide, legit, established defensive coordinator, OC, an actual established, experienced offensive coordinator. Even if you don't want to say that he is at the top, that he is the best OC in the world, okay, I'll accept that to be true. He's still a darn good OC, and clearly a competent OC. Clearly. No question about it. So we know that the Eagles are going to be a better team. We know that. And to say otherwise is just hating nonsense. But those are just my thoughts. I really, really would love to hear yours. What do you guys think? Is Nick Wright just being a hater? Are the Eagles actually just going to continue to be the worst team in the NFL? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions, let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I'd absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of, and I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.